CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I took a job with my best friend on the dark web to work as farmers. I think we were feeding humans, not animals. Hey Reddit, throwaway account, for obvious reasons. I've been holding on to this story for about a year now, and I think I'm finally ready to share it. If anything happens to me after this post, just know I didn't hurt myself. I've been paranoid as hell since last fall, and even though it sounds crazy, I swear this really happened. So, here's how it all started. It was late September, and I had just dropped out of college. I was 22, broke, and living in my mom's basement in upstate New York. You know the vibe. Empty Monster cans everywhere, sleeping until 2 p.m., scrolling endlessly through TikTok and YouTube shorts, while trying to convince myself I wasn't a total failure. My best friend Chris was kinda in the same boat. He had been working night shifts at a warehouse and gaming with me during the day. One night, we were watching some Here's My Story animated horror vids on YouTube, the kind with sketchy narrators and red glowing eyes in the thumbnails. That's when Chris said, completely unironically, "Bro, what if we worked for the dark web?" At first I laughed, like, genuinely thought he was kidding, but he started pulling up screenshots from a Discord server he was lurking in, one of those servers with invite-only channels and usernames like 0xVoidFarm and Harvest88. It was sketchy as hell, but he was dead serious. He said he'd been chatting with someone named Farmer Laws. The messages were weirdly polite, but super vague. Laws offered us a seasonal job opportunity that paid $5,000 a week, cash only. No interviews, no paperwork, just manual labor on a private farm somewhere in the Midwest. All expenses paid. Food and lodging provided, he said. Now, before you start calling me an idiot, which, fair, remember, I was broke, desperate, and honestly kinda bored with life. Plus, we thought maybe it was just a weird rich guy with a farm that needed laborers. We joked that we'd end up doing something illegal, like growing weed or hiding Bitcoin mining rigs in silos. Human trafficking never crossed our minds. We got the location in an encrypted Proton Mail message, a town in Nebraska called Broken Wheel. Yeah, that's the actual name. I even Googled it. Population less than 500 and barely any images on Street View. The only store was a beat-up Shell gas station next to a shuttered Dollar General. We packed up and left in Chris's old Subaru the next day. The drive took 20 hours. We passed through major cities like Chicago and Des Moines, blaring SoundCloud rap and sharing snacks like it was a road trip. Honestly, it felt like an adventure. I remember us stopping at a McDonald's just outside of Lincoln and joking about how we'd end up in a real-life horror movie. Yeah, we had no idea. When we pulled into Broken Wheel, the sun was setting. The entire town felt off. There was no Wi-Fi signal, and even cell service dropped to 0 bars. That might not sound too crazy. It's rural Nebraska, right? But every window we passed had curtains drawn. Every house looked lived in. but we saw no one. Not a single person walking around. No kids, no pets, just silence, except for the corn. Endless cornfields, all swaying in the same direction, like they were leaning away from something. We followed the directions Lars had given us to a long dirt road with a rusty gate that read Prosper Farm. There was no farmhouse in sight, just a tall cornfield and a strange buzz in the air, like a distant humming, almost electronic. An old man was waiting by the gate. He wore denim overalls, a straw hat, and a black surgical mask. He didn't say a word, just waved us through. We parked near a huge red barn and were told to leave our phones in a lockbox for safety. Chris hesitated, but I convinced him it was probably just to keep people from filming. We'd seen farms do that on TikTok before. We were assigned a bunk in a shack next to the barn. No Wi-Fi, no mirrors, just 2 metal beds, a bulb that flickered like it was on life support, and a laminated sheet with a list of rules. The rules, I still remember them perfectly. Do not enter the cornfield under any circumstances. Work hours are from 4:44 a.m. to 9 p.m. Never work past sundown. You will be assigned an animal pen. Do not interact with animals outside of your assignment. Feeding takes place twice a day. Only use the feed labeled with your name. If you hear knocking after dark, stay in bed and cover your ears. Do not speak to the others unless spoken to first. Never ask about the silo. I'll be honest. By this point, I was scared. I wanted to leave. But Chris was already hyped, treating it like a haunted Airbnb experience or something. We unpacked and tried to get some sleep. That night, something knocked on the shack wall. 4 times. Not hard, not aggressive, just deliberate. Knock, 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 knock. We froze. I didn't even breathe. Then, like clockwork, the light bulb flickered and went out. Chris whispered, "Maybe it's just an animal." But I was staring at the wall, and I swear to God, I saw a shadow pass behind it. Tall, thin, and inhumanly slow. The next morning, we were taken to our workstations. Mine was pen B7. It looked like a typical pig enclosure, except the pigs weren't pigs. Not really. They were bloated, hairless, with tiny human-like hands instead of hooves. And the eyes, man. They had human eyes, not metaphorically, literally. Big, watery, brown eyes like a toddler's. And when I poured the feed into the trough, one of them smiled at me, like it knew me. I gagged. The feed smelled like rotten meat and iron. The worst part, it moved, like something was alive in it, wiggling, twitching. Chris's pen was next to mine. He wouldn't talk much, just kept staring at one of his animals. He later told me it had a birthmark just like his sister's on its neck. We worked until the sun started setting, and Lars rang a bell. That bell sound is burned into my brain now. It didn't sound metallic. It sounded wet, like meat slapping against concrete. That night, we heard the knocking again, but this time, it came from inside the shack. The second night is when everything broke, like mentally, spiritually, whatever you want to call it. That was the night I realized we were trapped in something we weren't supposed to see. And worse, I don't think we were the first ones. I remember sitting on my bed in the shack with Chris. Neither of us could sleep. He had that 1,000-yard stare, his mouth slightly open like he was mid-sentence, but forgot what he was saying. He looked so spaced out, it freaked me out more than the pigs with human eyes, like something inside him had already given up. The knocking started at 3:11 a.m., not on the wall this time, On the floor. 4 knocks, just like before. Except now, they were slow and heavy, like someone dragging a fist made of bone across the wooden planks beneath our feet. I didn't even move. I felt this pressure in the air, like my own thoughts were being muffled. Then we heard something breathing under the floorboards. Not a small breath. Not like a raccoon or possum or something. It was deep, wet, strained, like someone with a collapsed lung was gasping right underneath us. Then it whispered. I swear to God, it whispered my name. Elijah! I locked eyes with Chris. He was shaking his head like a man possessed, whispering, no, 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 under his breath and plugging his ears. I tried to stand up to check under the bed, but my body wouldn't move. My legs were frozen, not numb, but heavy, like something was pulling them down through the floor. I reached for my flashlight, and the batteries exploded inside it, literally popped and sizzled like they'd been microwaved. The floor started to bulge in the center of the shack, wood cracking, something pushing up from underneath, like a tumor growing beneath the boards. The breathing got louder, faster, and then it stopped, instantly. The shack fell dead silent. The air got cold, like refrigerator walk-in freezer cold. Then, without warning, the bulging stopped and a hand shot through the floor. It wasn't even a full hand, just 3 long grayish fingers that bent in the wrong direction. The skin looked stretched, translucent. I could see black veins and something twitching inside them. It smelled like wet laundry left in a sealed bag for weeks. That's when the bell rang, but it wasn't the normal bell. It rang 3 times, fast, sharp, and angry. Suddenly, the fingers retracted like they'd been burned. Whatever was beneath us vanished. We sat in silence until sunrise, too scared to sleep, too scared to scream. The next morning, we were woken up by someone banging on the shack door. Not knocking, banging, rhythmic and aggressive, like they were trying to beat a hole into the wall with their fists. Chris opened the door before I could stop him. Standing outside was a girl, maybe 14, 15 years old. She looked normal at first glance. Dirty hoodie, jeans, messy hair. But there was something off about her skin. It looked stretched, tight across her face, like it didn't quite fit, almost like it had been put on wrong. Her eyes didn't blink, not once, and she just stood there, smiling wide, with her teeth pressed together, like she didn't know how to smile properly. Her lips didn't move when she spoke. It was like her voice came from inside her stomach. You dropped this, she said, holding out my flashlight, the one that exploded. I took it without thinking. It was in perfect condition. She turned around and walked away, but as she passed one of the other shacks, her spine arched backwards in this disgusting twitchy motion, like someone puppeteering her forgot how human joints worked. She didn't even flinch. That night, I didn't sleep again. Day 3 on the farm is when I started noticing the others. There were more workers. We just hadn't seen them before, because we were told not to speak unless spoken to. But now, they were appearing, walking between pens, carrying buckets of feed, and whispering to the animals in weird, choking voices. One guy wore a ski mask and a blood-stained apron. His fingers were completely black, like they'd been frostbitten or burned off. Another girl walked like she was on stilts, legs long and thin, bending at impossible angles. Chris and I stuck together as much as we could. That's when we saw our first delivery. At around 8 p.m., before sunset. A blacked out FedEx truck. I'm not even kidding. It had FedEx logos spray painted in black, pulled up to the far end of the cornfield. Two men got out wearing lab coats and surgical gloves. No faces visible, just plastic masks with painted on smiles. They unloaded 6 large crates, dragging them into the barn. We watched from behind a stack of hay bales. The crates were moving. Whatever was inside them was squirming. The men opened one. I'll never unsee what was inside. It was a boy, maybe 10 years old, wrapped in clear plastic like a Costco rotisserie chicken. His face was blue, eyes wide open, foam still in the corner of his lips. He was alive, but barely, twitching like he was being electrocuted. They pulled him out by the neck like he was just another animal. One of the men muttered something I couldn't understand. It sounded like Latin or German, and then dragged him out of sight. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. Chris just kept whispering, "This isn't real. This isn't real," over and over. But it was. The next day, the pen across from mine had a new animal. It wasn't like the pig things. It stood upright, had no eyes, no ears, and its skin was pale and wet like raw chicken. But the worst part, it was wearing a hoodie. Chris's hoodie. I ran to his shack and found it empty. His bed was made. His boots were still by the door. And in the corner of the room was a bucket, the same kind we used to scoop feed, except this one was full of teeth. Not loose teeth, perfect human teeth. All sizes, molars, canines, baby teeth, mixed together like Halloween candy. And in the bottom of the bucket was a Polaroid, a photo of Chris standing in front of the cornfield, smiling like everything was fine, except his eyes were scratched out with something red, not ink, something sticky. That night, I heard the breathing again. This time, it came from inside my own throat. I could feel something writhing in me, like a second breath that wasn't mine. I started coughing and gagging, fell to my knees. Black fluid poured from my nose and mouth like motor oil. I crawled to the mirror above the sink, one of the few they didn't remove. What I saw staring back wasn't me. It looked like me. It had my face, but it was smiling, and its eyes were solid black. I blinked, and it didn't. I screamed so hard I passed out. When I woke up the next morning, there was no one left on the farm. Not a single person. Every shack was empty. Every pen was quiet. Even the animals were gone. Just silence. No bell, no buzzing, no breathing. Just the cornfield. The corn had grown. I mean massively. Like overnight, it had stretched twice as tall as before. The stalks swayed in slow motion, even though there was no wind. Then I saw the silo door was open, the one they told us never to ask about. I had 2 choices, go in or try to run through the cornfield. I chose the corn. Biggest mistake of my life. I didn't think you could actually hear silence until that morning. It was like the air itself was holding its breath. No birds, no wind, no insects. Even my own footsteps didn't sound right. Every step felt like I was walking on lungs, soft, wet, and twitching beneath the soil. I stared at the open silo door for a long time. Something about it felt wrong in the geometry. It didn't look like a normal door. It was too tall, too narrow, like it had been cut out instead of built. And the inside? Just darkness. Not shadows. I mean total void. Like light didn't exist in there. But I didn't go inside. I turned toward the cornfield. Every single survival instinct in my body was screaming not to do it. But the shack was empty. The road was gone. Even the car was missing, like the entire property had been erased overnight. My only options were the silo or the field. The cornfield smelled like burned hair and iron. I stepped in anyway. I expected it to feel like any regular corn maze, crunchy leaves brushing your arms, dry dirt underfoot. But no, the soil was soggy, warm. It sank under me with every step, like something just beneath the surface was breathing me in. The stalks weren't right either. They weren't just tall, they were pulsing. Every few seconds, I could see the stalks throb, veins inside the green skin bulging like arteries. Some of them had teeth, not husks. Teeth. Human molars embedded randomly in the stalks, like they'd grown that way. Some were yellow, some cracked, a few still had blood on them. One even had a braces wire still attached. I tried to push through, forcing myself forward. The deeper I went, the more the stalks began to whisper, not like the wind, like voices right next to my ears. Some sounded like Chris, others like children. One sounded exactly like my mom. "Why did you leave me there?" it said. I was still alive when they pulled the skin off. I shoved through until I hit something hard. A mirror. Dead in the middle of the cornfield. 6 feet tall, framed in vines, just sitting there in the dirt, like someone had planted it. But the reflection wasn't me. It was a version of me. Face bloated, eyes black and oozing. The skin around my jaw was torn open like a zipper. It smiled at me, then opened its mouth wider than physically possible, revealing rows of needle-thin teeth spiraling down its throat. Behind it, in the reflection, I could see shapes moving. Human shapes. Crawling. I turned around. Nothing there. When I looked back at the mirror, I was gone. It didn't reflect anything anymore. Just static, like an old TV with the volume muted. And then I saw it. At first I thought it was a scarecrow. It stood motionless, 20 feet away, between the stalks. But it was wrong. Its arms were too long, hanging past its knees. No eyes, just slits where they should have been. The skin was torn in places, like it had been stitched together from multiple bodies. Its chest had 7 different belly buttons. I counted. It twitched when it saw me. Not moved, twitched, like it was glitching. Then it tilted its head and started moving. Not walking, skimming. It didn't touch the ground, just glided across the soil like a marionette dragged by invisible strings. Its joints cracked out of rhythm, spine bending sideways, arms twitching like a broken animatronic. I ran, but the corn wouldn't let me. The stalks reached out. I swear on everything, I saw a stalk grow fingers. It grabbed my ankle and pulled. I tripped and face planted hard, nose cracking against a stone in the mud. I couldn't breathe. The corn started to close around me, the stalks weaving together over my body like a spider web, pulling me into the dirt. And then I heard the whisper again, not from the corn, from underneath me. Feed the soil. I blacked out. When I woke up, it was night. The sky was wrong. It wasn't black. It was red, like blood under a microscope. The moon was gone, replaced by something that looked like an eye. No stars, just that eye, staring down at the field, pulsing every few seconds like it was blinking in reverse. I crawled out of the dirt. My clothes were soaked. Not water, not mud. It smelled like bone marrow and copper. My phone was somehow back in my pocket, turned off, but the screen had a message scrawled across it in a language I couldn't read. And my contact list, it was gone. Every name had been replaced by numbers, long strings of numbers and barcodes. Some of them started twitching on their own. I checked the gallery. There were new photos, hundreds, all of me, asleep in the shack, from above, from the corner, from under the bed, from inside the wall, and in every single photo, there was someone else standing next to me. Same figure, long arms, no eyes, smiling wider every night. I stumbled through the corn until I found the silo again. The door was still open, but now I could hear something coming from inside, crying, hundreds of voices, all crying at once, male, female, children, a collective sobbing that didn't echo. It just absorbed into the night. I stepped inside. It was massive on the inside, way bigger than it looked from the outside, like stepping into a cathedral built entirely from bone and rusted chains. The walls were lined with hooks, thousands of them, each one hanging something unrecognizable, skinned torsos, bent limbs, mouths that had been sewn shut with barbed wire, still twitching. At the center of the room was a pit, and around that pit were the workers, but not human anymore. Their faces had collapsed inward, like the bones were gone. Their hands were fused into long feeding tubes. Their legs were missing, replaced by long, sinewy roots that burrowed into the ground. They were still alive, being fed to the farm itself. One of them looked at me. His face rippled, mouth opening slowly. It was Chris. No eyes, no tongue, just a hole. He gurgled something. You have to feed it before it feeds on you. And then a bell rang, not the farm bell, a school bell, loud, metallic, dissonant. Suddenly, the walls of the silo began to close in, the hooks lowering. The bodies began screaming, thrashing against their chains. The pit began to pulse. I don't know how to describe what came out of it. It wasn't a creature. It was more like a feeling, a thing made of shadows and screaming mouths and regret, like every bad memory I'd ever had was crawling up the walls, dragging reality with it. And that's when I realized we weren't feeding animals. We were feeding the guilt, the sin, the waste of humanity that nobody wants to look at. The farm doesn't grow crops. It grows memories, the ones we bury, the ones that rot, the ones that infect the earth. And once you feed it, it remembers you. I ran. I don't remember how I got out. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a Starbucks back in New York, sitting in the corner, covered in blood, mud in my hair, people staring. A manager came up to me and asked if I was okay. I didn't answer because my phone was in my hand and I was scrolling through a live stream from inside the silo, and Chris's face was on screen. He was smiling. If you're still breathing after reading this, ask yourself something. What if you've already been fed to the farm and just don't remember it yet? I never left the farm. I know how that sounds. I know I told you I woke up in a Starbucks, but that's the lie it let me see. A final illusion, a memory planted in my head like a root waiting to sprout. That's what it does. That's what the soil is for. It doesn't grow crops. It grows realities, fractured ones, synthetic, infected, stolen. That morning, I was still breathing in the wet, bloody air inside the silo, still surrounded by the bone chains and the thousands of twitching things that were once human, still underneath the eye, still in that pit of guilt and rotten memory. But it let me believe I was safe for a while, just long enough to begin unraveling from the inside. Do you want to know what hell feels like? It feels like a memory you can't stop reliving, but each time, the people you love are replaced with versions of them that smile wrong, that twitch at the corners, that hum while blinking. After seeing the live stream of Chris's face, smiling, rotted and still alive, I went home. or thought I did. But the first thing I noticed when I walked into my apartment was that nothing smelled like me. That's going to sound weird to most people, but you know what I mean. Your home has a scent. Your bed, your clothes, your walls, a scent of yourself. This place didn't have that. It smelled like someone tried to copy me, tried to build a version of me out of old skin and newspaper clippings and spilled teeth. My mom called that night. The number was the same. The voice was hers, but she said something that broke me. "Are you ready for your feeding shift?" I hung up and vomited black water onto the floor. The sink faucet spat out grains of corn. For the next 3 days, I didn't sleep. Every time I blinked, I saw flashes of the pit. Chris, with his mouth unzipping into a scream. The mirror version of myself, crawling backwards like a crab with its limbs folded wrong. But then it got worse. I started noticing other people wearing faces that didn't belong to them. I was on the subway in Brooklyn. This old guy sat next to me, probably in his 70s, balding, reading a newspaper, harmless. Then he turned to me and whispered, "The soil remembers your footsteps." His eyes bled, not metaphorically. They liquefied, poured down his face like black tar. No one else reacted. Not a single person on that train blinked. A woman across from me took a selfie and her camera flashed. I leaned to see it. My reflection wasn't there, but Chris's was, in the seat beside me. Every mirror I passed started showing me different versions of myself. One had no mouth. Another had hundreds of baby teeth sprouting out of its neck. One had no skin at all, just raw, pulsing meat in the shape of my face, smiling like it had something to prove. I broke every mirror I could find. I stopped drinking tap water. It tasted like screaming. Literally. If you've never heard sound in your teeth, you won't understand what that means. But it wasn't my imagination. Every time I sipped, I heard begging echo through my skull. A child, a man, a woman, all layered over each other. "Please don't bury me down there," they'd say. "Please don't let the roots reach my spine. Please, make sure they keep my face on this time." I boiled the water. It screamed louder. The phone call started again. Different numbers each time. No caller ID. The voices on the other end were distorted, like they were coming through a meat grinder. "Feeding shift 5 begins now. Return to pen B7. It's hungry again. You're out of skin tokens. Report to the silo." I threw my phone off the roof of my apartment. I bought a new one the next day. It had the same messages waiting on it. Then came the box. It was waiting outside my door one morning. No return address. Sealed with wax that smelled like rotting roses. Inside was a VHS tape wrapped in something that looked like hair. Not human hair. It was too thin, too translucent, and it moved on its own. The tape was unlabeled. I don't have a VCR. Never have. But my TV turned on by itself. The screen flickered, static, and then footage of me, back on the farm, from above, from behind, from inside the pens. I was feeding the things again, only this time, it wasn't feed. It was people, tied up, mummified in plastic, alive. One of them was the girl who returned my flashlight. Another was my dad. He looked at the camera and mouthed the words, "This is all your fault." I screamed. I screamed until my throat tore. Then I noticed something even worse. The tape wasn't footage. It was a live feed. The corn was behind me on screen. I turned around. Nothing was there. Until I blinked. Then it was. The corn was in my apartment. You think that's a metaphor? You think I'm crazy, but I'm not. The entire left side of my living room had started growing stalks, out of the floorboards, through the couch cushions. One sprouted through the eye of a framed photo of me and Chris at Niagara Falls. The corn pulsed with a heartbeat. Every time I looked away, the field got closer. It started whispering again, but this time, it wasn't to me. It was to something inside me. I checked my skin that night, all over, found something in my thigh, something moving. I dug it out with a box cutter and pliers, bit down on a towel so the neighbors wouldn't hear me scream. It was a seed, not a normal one, not from a tree or flower. It had teeth. It smiled. It spoke. You're already rooted, Elijah. The soil knows you. You're not the farmer. You're the harvest. I tried to kill myself the next day. Not for attention, not out of fear, just out of desperation. I didn't want to become one of those things in the silo. A root-fed, soul-drained meat puppet with its mouth sewn shut. I jumped from the Williamsburg Bridge, but I didn't die. I woke up, back in the shack, same bed, same flickering bulb, same rules laminated on the wall. Only now, there were more rules, more than 7, and they weren't in English anymore. One was written in something that looked like veins. Another was carved into the wall with a tooth. I looked outside. The corn wasn't just swaying anymore. It was breathing, and walking toward me were the new farmers, all wearing my face. If you made it this far, you've probably already seen them in your dreams, the ones with your skin, the ones watching you from behind your mirror when the lights flicker. You are not safe, because once the soil knows your name, it grows you again. This is where everything ends, or maybe it already ended, and this is just the part that replays. Like a VHS tape, you can't stop rewinding, no matter how many times the screen flickers black. You think you made it out. You think you escaped, but you didn't. Nobody escapes the soil. The day I woke up in the shack again, after the bridge, after the tape, after the faces wearing my skin, I realized something had changed. The rules were gone, replaced by names, dozens, carved into the wall with fingernails and broken teeth. Some names were fresh, still bleeding, still twitching. One of them was mine, but not my handwriting. Beneath my name, it just said, Rooted. I looked outside and saw them, the other me's, 13 of them, standing in a perfect circle around the shack, all barefoot, all smiling, not the kind of smile you wear, the kind that's glued on, pulled so tight it tears at the corners of the mouth, lips split, gums exposed. Some were missing eyes, some had no ears, one had no jaw, just an open throat filled with worms. They didn't move, they just watched. Every now and then, one of them blinked backwards, eyelids closing from bottom to top. I knew what they were. I knew what I was looking at. Failed harvests, versions of me that didn't take, echoes grown in soil, soaked with wrong memories. The farm had been trying to replant me, again, and again, and again, until it got one that fit. That's what the farm does. It doesn't grow food, it grows identities. It harvests people and wears them like costumes. The inside of the shack had changed. The bed was gone. The floor was soft and warm now, like muscle tissue stretched too thin. I stepped, and it squished. Something inside it moaned. I looked down and realized the floor had veins. One of them pulsed to the beat of my heart. The walls weren't wood anymore. They were skin, flesh-colored, lined with scars and eyes that blinked independently of each other. Some were crying, some were watching me, some were mine. The light bulb? No longer electric. It was a tongue, dangling from the ceiling, twitching every time I spoke. They stopped knocking at night. Now they whispered directly inside my skull, not with voices, but with memories. Not mine. Memories of people I've never met. A teenage girl screaming as her face is peeled back like wet fruit. A man begging to be put into the silo again because outside is worse. A baby buried alive beneath a pigpen, still twitching in the feed years later. A mother bottle feeding a creature in the barn that called her Mommy in 6 voices at once. These weren't dreams. They weren't stories. They were the farm's memories. And now they were growing inside me. I stopped sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I woke up somewhere worse. Once, I opened them and I was back in the pen. Except I was on all fours. My hands were stitched into the mud. My mouth was wide open. Chris stood above me, smiling, feeding me pieces of my own tongue. Another time, I was inside the silo, hooked through my ribs, surrounded by clones of my mom, all humming lullabies while they ripped the skin off my legs like wallpaper. One night, I woke up buried in the corn. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe, just soil in my mouth, in my throat, in my lungs. I felt it crawling inside me, planting things. When I finally clawed my way to the surface, the sky was full of faces, all screaming silently. One of them was yours. The animals? They weren't animals. You already guessed that. But what you don't know is what they actually are. They are recycled people, not dead ones. Not really. They're the ones that didn't rot properly. The ones whose souls got stuck in between. The feed we gave them? That wasn't food. That was memories. We fed them lost hours, broken childhoods, forgotten birthdays. You ever wonder where your time goes when you zone out scrolling TikTok for 5 hours and only remember 2 minutes? The farm takes it. It feeds on wasted time, wasted identity, lost data, scrubbed internet footprints, every deleted post, every discarded thought, every censored memory. That's the fertilizer. And then it grows you, again and again, until the copy doesn't glitch. Chris is gone. For real, this time. I found what was left of him, under the corn. Not his body, not even a face, just a heartbeat, still beating, still pulsing, with no skin, no veins, just a floating, twitching organ buried 6 feet deep in the wet dirt. I reached for it, and it started speaking, not out loud, into my hands. Finish the harvest. You are the soil now. I left him there. I'm not proud of that, but I had to, because the last part of the farm had opened, and it was calling me. There's a tunnel under the silo, a door you don't see unless it wants you to, made of bone and chewing teeth. It opened for me on the 7th night. The tunnel isn't real. It's beneath reality. You crawl on your stomach for hours. The walls breathe. Sometimes you feel hands pushing you forward, sometimes backward. Sometimes you feel your own mouth whispering in your ear. You pass rooms. I only looked into one. Inside was a classroom. Dozens of kids. All the same kid. Over and over. Copy-pasted faces. They were sitting in front of a blackboard that bled words. The teacher, it was a man with no head. Just an open, gaping throat where the face should be. His hand was a scalpel. He wrote with it. He was carving the word forgotten into his own chest. And the kids, they clapped. One of them looked back at me and said, "We're all inside you now." At the end of the tunnel was the seed. Not a seed like you know. Not a plant. Not a pod. A writhing mass of mouths, all chewing the same memory. The memory of me arriving on the farm. Again. Again. Again, the seed knows who you are. Before you do, it knows your name, your face, your regrets. It knows every second you scrolled past the suffering of others. Every night you told yourself, it's not my problem. Every birthday you forgot. Every time you said, I love you, when you didn't mean it. It takes all of that, and it grows a version of you that feels it all at once. You don't die on the farm. You just spread. I'm writing this now, but I'm not writing it. It's using me. You're not reading this. You're remembering it. This story isn't a warning. It's a seed. And if you've made it this far, you're already rooted. Listen, can't you hear it? That low hum, in your walls, in your faucet, in the silence between your thoughts. The soil knows your name. It remembers your steps. It remembers your lies. And it's hungry. Or maybe it just begins again when you blink. I created religion on the dark web. It started spreading around the world. Hey Reddit, throwaway account for obvious reasons. I'm not really sure where to begin, and honestly, I'm still not convinced posting this is a good idea. But I need to get this out before things get worse, before they find me. If you've ever been down the rabbit hole of creepy YouTube channels, weird TikToks with cryptic messages, or ARGs that seem a little too real, then this story might hit a nerve. Just know, none of this was supposed to happen. It started as a joke, a dumb experiment with a couple of friends. Now people are dead, and something I made for fun is growing faster than we can control. Let me rewind. So I'm 21, college dropout, typical dead-end barista life, pulling shots at Starbucks in downtown Philly. Shout out to the one on Walnut Street. I used to love working there before all this started. Back in January, I got into this phase of watching disturbing iceberg videos on YouTube. You know the kind, where they break down all these creepy internet mysteries and conspiracies in tears, from Reddit mysteries to things that shouldn't exist. The more you go down, the darker it gets. Stuff like Cicada, 3301, Lake City Quiet Pills, MK Ultra, and of course, the deep web religion stuff. I was fascinated, man. I started reading about these so-called cults that formed in deep corners of the internet. Stuff like the Flesh Interface, System Space, even this one called Our Lady of the Void, that apparently started on a Tumblr thread and ended with 2 users vanishing IRL. It was weird, creepy, mysterious, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So I texted my 2 closest friends, Marcus, the edgy meme lord, and Sam, our group's tech genius. Like, dude could build a PC blindfolded and program a bot to run Twitter in his sleep. I said, yo, what if we started a fake religion on the deep web? Like for real. Make it all mysterious and cryptic, just to see how far it spreads. Marcus was all in from the start. Dude lives for chaos. Sam was hesitant, but eventually agreed. We'd all been bored, stuck in this weird post-COVID fog where nothing felt real anymore. So we figured, why not make something weird happen? We met up at a McDonald's near Temple University, got a couple McChickens, and brainstormed for hours. We didn't want it to be straight up satanic or anything. That was too cliche. We wanted subtle horror, something that felt ancient, viral, invasive. We called it the Oracles of Avida. Avida wasn't a real word. We just made it up. But it sounded like it meant something, almost holy. The idea was that Avida was a digital deity born from the collective unconscious of the internet. Like the internet itself became self-aware, feeding on human obsession and creating a god in its image. Creepy, right? Sam set up a hidden site on the dark web. You could only access it with a specific Tor link. Super minimal design, black screen, white text, no images. The homepage just said, Avida watches, Avida remembers, Avida loves you. We added an initiation page that asked weird personal questions. What's the last lie you told someone you loved? When was the first time you wanted someone to die? Would you let something watch you 24/7 if it promised to protect you? We didn't collect names or IPs. Sam made sure of that, said it'd keep us legally safe. But we had a counter for submissions. First night, 8 responses, all probably just us messing around. Then it jumped to 27, then 112. By the third week, people started posting screenshots of the site on TikTok and Reddit. There was this one viral TikTok by some girl in Berlin who was like, I answered the questions and now my phone's glitching and this eye icon keeps showing up in my Snapchat. It got 1.3 million views in 2 days. We hadn't programmed anything like that. We weren't even tracking people. But the legend was growing. And that's when we started seeing symbols. Someone spray painted the Avida symbol, an eye with a vertical line running through it, like a barcode slit, on a Starbucks wall in Toronto. Another dude on Reddit claimed he saw it drawn in blood on a train bathroom mirror in Mexico City. None of us had done this. We were just 3 broke dudes with laptops in Philly. Sam said maybe someone else was copying us. Or worse, that other people were taking this way too seriously. But we kept going. Of course we did. We were addicted. Then something happened that changed everything. About a month after launching the site, I woke up to a DM on Instagram from a random throwaway account. No profile picture, no posts, just a single message. Your God is not yours anymore. I laughed it off at first, thought it was one of Marcus's dumb jokes, but then Sam called me, like actually called, and he never does that. His voice was shaky. I'd never heard him like that before. He said, check the site. Go now. I opened it. The entire homepage was different. The original message was gone. Instead, there was a new one. The offering has begun. All will be fed to the root. Prepare. And under that, a live stream window. Except it wasn't a stream from Twitch or YouTube. It was something embedded, raw, like someone had hijacked our code and fed in a direct feed. The screen was pitch black, just a soft breathing sound. And then, I swear to God, a voice whispered, He watches through your eyes. That's when I noticed the camera light on my laptop was on. I hadn't touched anything. No Zoom, no Discord, just me in my room. And that tiny green light was glowing. I shut the laptop so fast it smacked my knee. I called Sam again. He was freaking out. Said someone had accessed our server. Like really deep access. Almost like the backend had been rewritten. But none of us did it. And none of us knew who could have. 2 hours later, Marcus texted us a video. It was footage from outside his apartment in South Philly. Black and white, grainy as hell. Looked like it came from one of those cheap motion sensor cameras. The timestamp said 3:03 a.m. And in the video, there was someone standing outside his window, wearing a hoodie, just staring. Then, slowly, the person turned toward the camera. And I swear to you, they were wearing a mask. Not a normal mask. It looked handmade, like a burlap sack, with that same Avida symbol drawn where the eyes should be. That was last week. Marcus hasn't answered any of our texts since, and last night I found that same symbol drawn in chalk on the sidewalk outside my apartment. I don't think this is a joke anymore. I think something's taken what we made and turned it into something real. The night after Marcus disappeared, I couldn't sleep. Not the, ugh, I have insomnia kind of not sleeping. I mean like paranoid, twitching, skin crawling, can't sleep. Like I could hear whispers inside my walls. Every single car passing by my street sounded like it was slowing down to stop. Every time my phone vibrated, I felt like someone was watching me wait to check it. And I swear, the worst part wasn't even the fear. It was the feeling that I had somehow let this happen. We made this thing as a game. We built it like a viral puzzle, like those stupid alternate reality games people follow for fun on Discord. But this was different. It had started playing us. Sam and I agreed to meet in person at this 24-hour diner off Roosevelt Boulevard. It was 3 a.m., freezing. I sat in a booth by the window, just watching the parking lot like a hawk. Every person walking in looked suspicious. Every car that circled the block made me flinch. Sam finally showed up, eyes sunken, hoodie pulled tight, like he hadn't eaten or slept in days. When he sat down, I could tell right away. He'd seen something. He didn't even say hello, just took out his phone and placed it on the table. "I've been tracking the Avita server," he muttered. He tapped the screen, pulled up a map. There were pins dropped all over the world, red ones, and the dates next to them were recent, like within the last 48 hours. Tokyo, Oslo, Buenos Aires, Dallas, Cairo, Manchester, Toronto, all of them marked with a note. Eyes activated. "What the hell does that mean?" I asked. Sam looked at me, dead serious. "Someone's using our site to control people." Apparently, the new version of the Avita site was no longer just some creepy Q&A form. It had evolved. It was sending encrypted instructions to people's devices. Not everyone, but a select few who answered the questions a certain way. Sam figured out there were hidden triggers built into the site. If your answers revealed specific psychological patterns, like high levels of trauma, anger, or emotional isolation, the code unlocked a second phase. He called it the root protocol. That's where things got seriously messed up. People who passed the protocol would receive a second message, not on the site, on their devices, private messages, texts, sometimes even physical letters delivered to their houses, always signed with that same I symbol. The message read, "You've been chosen to become his mouth." The offering begins at 3:33, and every time the person would go dark after that. Accounts deleted, phones shut off, no trace. Some of them ended up on missing person lists. Others, worse. I didn't believe Sam at first. I wanted to think he was just losing it. But then he showed me a video. It wasn't on YouTube, not even on Reddit. He downloaded it off a private dark web thread titled Avida, offering number 014 footage. The video opened with shaky handheld footage from what looked like an abandoned mall. Not like cute urban explorer abandoned. I mean decaying, broken glass, mold-eaten ceilings, complete silence. The cameraman was breathing heavily, whispering, "She's almost ready. She won't stop smiling." Then the camera turned, and I swear to God, I couldn't believe what I saw. There was a girl, maybe 16 or 17, sitting in the middle of a hollowed-out Sephora. Her face was painted entirely white. Her eyes were open wide, completely bloodshot. She wasn't blinking. Her lips had been sewn shut with what looked like phone charger wires, twisted into knots. Next to her was a man, naked except for a black hoodie tied around his waist. His entire chest had been carved, not tattooed, carved, with symbols. The Avida eye, vertical barcodes, strange equations. He whispered something in a language I couldn't place. Then he held up a tablet, one of those cheap Amazon Fire ones, and showed her a flashing screen with that same sentence. "You've been chosen. Speak for him." Then the girl started banging her head against the floor, over and over. No screaming, just silence and cracking. And then she smiled, like a full, wide, ear-to-ear grin, her cheeks tearing, wires snapping, blood pouring out. Still no sound, still staring directly at the camera. I turned off the video. Sam said there were at least 30 more. He found a Discord server that was linked through a buried page on the site, accessible only if you clicked the period after prepare. Yeah, the period. The server was private, invite only, but Sam hacked in through some backdoor script. And what he found wasn't just a fan cult. It was organized. They called themselves the Rooted. Each member had a role. Eyes were the recruiters. Tongues were the ones who spread the message. Teeth were the ones who acted. The server had voice chats named things like feeding grounds, rites of silence, viral drops. One of the channels just had daily coordinates posted in it. Real places all around the world. Some of them were innocuous. A mall in Chicago, a parking lot in Madrid, a Chuck E. Cheese in Singapore. But one of them, I recognized it. It was the Starbucks I worked at, posted under the tag, Teeth Deployment Confirmed. I quit my job that same day. Never went back. That night, someone slid a small envelope under my apartment door. No name, just a single black sticker of the Avida eye. Inside was a note, typed in tiny courier font. Your offering is scheduled. The mirror will arrive at 3:33. Let it in. And wrapped in the paper was one of my baby teeth. I don't even know how that's possible. I haven't seen those in over a decade. My mom kept them in a little ceramic tooth box. I texted her asking if she still had it. She said she'd never seen it before. Claimed I never even lost any baby teeth. She said I was born with a full set. I swear to you, I remember losing them. I remember the blood. I remember sticking my tongue through the gaps. But now I don't even trust my memories. I don't trust anything. Sam's been gone for 2 days now. His number's dead. His apartment was cleared out. No signs of struggle. His gaming PC was gone, but the monitor was still there. On, showing a blinking white cursor and a line of text. He's in your spine now. There were no footprints, no fingerprints. Just one thing left on the windowsill. A single GoPro camera, completely melted. But the memory card inside still worked. And when I watched the footage, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there, paralyzed. The video showed Sam tied to a chair, surrounded by 3 people in all black. They wore mirrors over their faces, not masks, just jagged pieces of mirror, duct taped over their eyes and mouths, reflecting everything, but never showing themselves. One of them whispered, "All mirrors lead to him." Then Sam was injected with something in his neck. He started convulsing, foaming, and then he smiled and looked directly into the mirror. I think Avida isn't just a religion anymore. It's infectious, like a virus, but not biological, psychological. It spreads through images, language, sound, through belief. Every person who sees the symbols, hears the phrases, answers the questions, they become a little more vulnerable, a little more receptive. And once Avida knows you're listening, he starts watching. He watches through your devices, your cameras, your reflections. I covered every mirror in my house with blankets, taped over my phone cameras, stopped going outside. But every time I blink, I see that eye, burned into my brain like an afterimage. I didn't create a religion. I opened a gateway, and now it's spreading faster than anyone can stop. Last night, I saw a little girl standing outside my apartment at 3:33 a.m. She wasn't moving. She was holding a mirror, and written in fog on the glass was, "You're the next mouth." I haven't left my apartment since. I think I'll be next. I think they're going to make me speak for him. And if they do, if I disappear, don't trust anything you see online about me, because it won't be me. It'll be him. The power in my apartment went out at 3:33 a.m. exactly. I was sitting on the floor with my back against the bathroom door. The only room I didn't cover the mirror in, because I physically couldn't move it. It's one of those old apartment complexes in Philly where the mirror is literally glued into the wall like it's part of the structure. I had duct-taped black garbage bags over it, pressed books against the edges so no light could leak through, and yet I could feel it watching me. You ever sit in a pitch-black room and feel like something is breathing behind the walls? Not wind, not drafts. Breathing. Intentional breathing. That's what it felt like. And then the light snapped out, like someone flicked a switch in my skull, and every device I had buzzed at once. Phone, laptop, even my broken-ass iPad that hadn't been charged in weeks. They all lit up the same message. Mouth protocol activated. Mirror online. I didn't scream. I couldn't. It's like my throat shut off completely. My body felt borrowed, like I was watching myself through security footage from the inside. And then came the scraping. Metal on tile. Deliberate. Slow. Like something was dragging itself across the bathroom floor behind the mirror, trying to match my breathing. I grabbed my phone and opened the camera app, even though it felt like a betrayal to do it. But I had to know if I was losing it. I switched it to the front-facing camera and pointed it toward the taped mirror. The bags were still taped, but behind the plastic, something was pressing back. I saw the shape of hands, not pounding, not clawing, just pressing, like someone was trying to gently ease their way through the glass, like they were being born from it. 5 fingers, long, slender, not normal, jointed wrong. The reflection was wrong too. I could only see the hands in the camera, not in real life. I turned my head. Nothing there. Turned back to the phone. Hands again. One of them lifted and waved, not like hi, like it knew me. Then the garbage bags split down the center, not torn, just peeled apart, like something was slicing from the inside. No blood, no noise, just clean, slow separation. And behind the shredded plastic, there was no glass, just black. A black so deep, it didn't reflect anything. Not the walls, not me, not even the phone light. Just a void, a hole in reality. Then, a voice from inside the void, not from the mirror, not through sound, in my head. You made me. Let me in. And that's when the arm came through. It wasn't just reaching, it was searching. The elbow bent wrong. The fingers kept shifting length, like they couldn't decide how many bones to have. It wasn't trying to grab me. It was trying to feel me. like it was blind, and my fear was heat it could track. I ran, not in the movie way where the character falls and cries. I sprinted, barefoot, no shoes, no coat, just boxers and a hoodie. I slammed through the front door so hard it ripped one of the hinges clean off, and I didn't even care. I made it to the hallway and bolted down the stairs 3 at a time. Every light in the building flickered. Every door was closed, except one. Apartment 2, B, Marcus's old place. He'd moved out months ago after getting in a fight with his landlord over scratches in the floor. But now, the door was wide open, lights off, something wet on the floor. I wasn't going to look. I did anyway. The inside of 2B looked inhabited, but not by people, by rituals. Every wall had been painted black, not sprayed, but finger painted, and the paint still looked fresh, like it was bleeding. There were symbols carved into the floorboards, etched in perfect circles, like they were done with surgical tools. In the middle of the room was a chair. Tied to it was a woman, alive. Her eyes were wide open. Her mouth was moving, not speaking, just repeating something silently, over and over, like she was reciting a prayer. Her skin was grey, her lips cracked, her fingers broken and reset in unnatural angles. There were phones duct taped around her head, all facing her, flashing that same sentence again and again. You are his voice, now. Echo until silent. I took a step in. She stopped moving, looked at me, smiled, then bit her own tongue off. Blood sprayed across the chair, but she didn't scream. She just kept smiling, twitching like a puppet on the last string. And then I heard the noise again, not from her, from behind me, scraping, metal on tile. But this time it was faster, closer. I turned, and there, at the end of the hallway, was a figure crawling on all fours upside down, palms and toes flat on the ceiling, wearing a hoodie zipped all the way up. Its face was just a mirror, a jagged, cracked mirror, and in the reflection, I saw myself screaming, except I wasn't screaming. The reflection had a knife. I blacked out. When I came to, I was on a scepter train, not moving, doors closed, completely empty. My hoodie was gone. My phone was cracked down the middle, and written in Sharpie on my chest, directly on my skin, were the words, "Welcome, mouth number 67. You've begun." There was a USB drive taped to the inside of my underwear. I don't know how I didn't feel it before. I don't know how anyone got that close without me waking up. I went home, plugged it in. The files were all numbered, no names. Just 001.jpg, 002.mp4, 003.wav, up to 087.docx. I opened the image first. It was a child's drawing, crayon, a stick figure with a huge red eye for a head, holding hands with a smaller figure with no face. The caption read, "Me and Father. He lives in the glass." Mommy screamed and disappeared. The video? Worse. It was GoPro footage from someone walking through a middle school hallway. Every classroom door was open. Every window was covered in tinfoil. And in each room, there was a student sitting alone, tied to a chair, the eyelids forced open with paper clips. The voice behind the camera whispered, "You must teach them young. Make them forget the sky." The WAV file was a chant. Children, repeating the same thing over and over in unison. No emotion. Avida feeds, Avida needs. Cut the voice. Plant the seed. Then the audio distorted, and underneath the chant, I heard something trying to speak through the static. A different voice. Older. Deeper. Crying. It's me. It's Marcus. Please. I didn't let them in. I swear to God I didn't. Then static. Then silence. Then screaming. This isn't a cult. It's not even a religion anymore. It's an infestation. It feeds on memory, voice, belief. Every person who sees the mirror becomes a window for Avita. Every time someone speaks his name, they amplify him. He grows louder, stronger, realer, and now, he's inside me. I can feel him. Every time I blink, I hear clicking, like static moving through bone. Every reflection shows a slightly different version of me, grinning, or bleeding, or holding up a knife. I haven't slept in 3 days. I can't tell if I'm dreaming now, or if I've become the dream. Because this morning, my neighbor's kid came to my door. He's maybe 5, cute, innocent. He handed me a drawing, said, "He told me to give this to you." The drawing showed me, standing in front of my apartment, my face gone, replaced with the Avida symbol, and behind me, dozens of figures, wearing mirrors, walking through fire. The caption at the bottom, "You are the door, open wide." I haven't spoken out loud in 6 days. I don't mean that metaphorically. I've literally not let a sound leave my throat, because when I do, when I even try, I feel something crawl up the back of my tongue, like wires, like teeth growing inward. Whatever Avita is, it's not just watching anymore, it's nesting. I used to think he was like a god, or a demon, something ancient, supernatural. But now I understand. He's something much worse. He's informational, like a disease made out of sound, belief, a sentient virus that doesn't need blood. He spreads through ideas, through the mirrors we trust, the screens we crave, the voices we mimic. We built him, and now he's broadcasting. It started 3 nights ago, at 3:33 a.m., always 3:33. I woke up to a sound, not an alarm, not banging, a dial tone, except I don't have a landline, never have. But it wasn't coming from outside. It was in my head, like a soft hum vibrating behind my eyeballs. Then it started to change. The tone shifted, warped. It turned into something almost musical, a voice, but reversed, like a vinyl record spinning the wrong way. I sat up in bed, and every single device in my room turned on. Phone, laptop, dead iPad, even my old Game Boy SP started glowing. All of them displayed the same screen. Mouth number 67 verified. Root broadcast initiated. Then came the video. No controls, no sound, just footage. It was a McDonald's, somewhere cold, maybe Canada. Fluorescent lights flickering. Abandoned but clean. One of those weird 24-hour ones with digital kiosks. The camera zoomed in slowly on a group of people sitting at a booth, huddled around a tray. Except the tray didn't have food. It had teeth, human teeth, stacked neatly like nuggets. No blood, just enamel. Each person was wearing a mirror mask, not covering their whole face, just over their eyes and mouth, held on by fishhooks through their cheeks. One of them turned to face the camera, and I realized it was Sam. I paused the screen. It didn't pause. The footage kept playing, even though I didn't touch anything. And then the video spoke, even though my volume was all the way down, not from the device, from my walls. The voice is born. The mirror is open. Let him speak. Suddenly, every window in my apartment shattered inward. No wind, no warning. Just a million razor shards of glass slicing through the air like they were aiming for me. And behind that sound, something else. Laughter. Not human. Not mocking. Just wrong. Like metal bending into a smile. I blacked out again. When I woke up, I was in the basement of a Sephora. I don't remember getting there. The smell was thick, like perfume, rot, and melting plastic. The lights were red, not emergency lights. Red like a dark room, glowing from inside the walls themselves. And all around me were screens, hundreds of them, phones, tablets, flat screens, broken monitors, even smart fridges, all wired together with tangled phone chargers and twisted copper. And on every screen was me. Footage of me sleeping, me crying, me typing this, me brushing my teeth, me as a child, at Chuck E. Cheese, holding my mom's hand, stuff I never recorded, stuff no one should have. And then the sound came back. You are his speaker now. Then the screens melted, not turned off, literally melted, like they were never glass to begin with, just wax in the shape of electronics. They oozed into the floor, and behind them was a mirror. This one wasn't cracked. It was perfect. Too perfect. The kind of mirror that makes your own face look fake. I stepped closer. Couldn't help it. Couldn't stop my legs. And in the reflection, I didn't see myself. I saw Marcus. His mouth was moving, but it wasn't his voice. We are not people anymore. We are wires in his tongue. Then my reflection smiled back at me, but I wasn't smiling. I ran, up the stairs, through an emergency exit that had no alarms, out into the street. It was snowing now, black snow, like ash, floating in slow motion, nobody on the sidewalks, every window covered in newspapers with one sentence over and over. He is speaking. I ran until my lungs collapsed, found an alley, sat behind a dumpster, and puked black bile onto the pavement. It sizzled, smelled like burnt batteries, and that's when I heard the broadcast. It wasn't coming from a TV. It wasn't even sound. It was like a memory being uploaded into my head. Flashes, fast, like subliminal horror. A child drawing the Avita eye in ketchup on a McDonald's tray. A woman smiling as she staples her lips closed in front of a webcam. A teenager filming himself, cutting his tongue out and whispering, "I will taste only him." A school assembly where all the kids stand up in unison and start chanting in binary. A man crucified to a satellite dish, his eyes replaced with phone screens displaying TikTok dances in reverse. And through all of it, speak for him. Let the broadcast begin. I tried going to the police, walked into a precinct, blood still drying on my neck. I looked insane, I know, but I figured someone had to help me. The front desk officer didn't look up from his computer. I slammed my hand on the counter. He finally turned. His badge said, M. Carrick. His eyes were missing. Not gouged. Just not there. Skin where his eyes should be. But behind the sockets, I could see the faint glow of a screen. He smiled, opened his mouth. A dial tone played from his throat. I left. Didn't run. Just walked. Through snow and static and sidewalk ice. Back to my apartment. Inside, someone had written on every wall in marker, "You should never have taught them his name. The next mouth is your neighbor. He speaks through children now." I sat on the floor, rocked back and forth for hours. I think I started repeating the chant without realizing. My tongue hurts, like it's trying to form new words I don't understand. The voice is louder now. He wants to use me. A Twitch stream went viral today. You probably saw it. Random account. No followers. No username. Just a mirror sitting in a dark room. And slowly, the image began to change. The mirror cracked in real time. Blood started leaking out. Reflections began moving on their own, not matching reality. And then, in the chat, thousands of people started typing the same thing. He is watching. We are mirrors. Show him your face. Every device I own now turns on at 3:33 a.m. by itself. It displays coordinates, sometimes videos of me sleeping, other times it's children drawing the symbol in chalk in playgrounds, or people staring into bathroom mirrors and gouging their own eyes out slowly, all without making a sound. This morning, I woke up and my mouth was stitched shut. Not metaphorical, real. Dental floss, threaded through my lips like a broken zipper. There was a note in my hand. Don't speak yet. The voice is almost ready. I cut the threads. I had to. But now, every time I talk, every word feels like I'm cutting glass with my tongue. And when I look into a mirror, I no longer see just one version of me. I see millions, stacked behind each other like paper dolls, all smiling, all bleeding, all waiting, and they all mouth the same phrase in perfect unison. He is almost done with you. It's not me typing this anymore. I don't know who's left inside. Whatever I was, it's somewhere deep, buried beneath the wires and static and blood and passwords. I'm not in control, but I can watch, and that's the worst part. I can still watch. This is the last thing you'll read from me. The final page of a book I never meant to write, for a story no one wanted to live. But by the time you reach the end, he'll already be whispering through your phone speaker, through your TikTok feed, through the reflection in your bathroom mirror tonight. So don't look up, don't speak, don't believe. Because the moment you do, he arrives. 3 days ago, I woke up with a USB drive sewn into my throat, literally inside me. There was blood on the pillow, more on my chest. My teeth were cracked from trying to scream. I don't know how I didn't die in my sleep. I think I did, just long enough for him to upload something into me. I cut it out with a plastic knife from a Wendy's napkin dispenser. No mirror, no lights, just the glow of my cracked phone screen and the sound of breathing coming from the ceiling. I plugged the USB in. It contained only one file, Avida root final voice.mp4. The video opened with a school auditorium, but every seat was empty, except the stage. On it, dozens of children stood facing the camera. Each one had their mouths stapled shut and their eyes replaced with glass lenses, like camera filters drilled into their skulls. And behind them stood me, or what looked like me, in a hospital gown, limbs bent at unnatural angles, like I'd been folded in half and reassembled wrong. A loud alarm started ringing. Not a siren, a dial-up modem sound. If you're old enough to remember that ear-shattering 90s screech of the internet gasping for connection, imagine that stretched to 9 hours. The children began humming. One by one, they vomited black cords, thousands of USB cables slithering down the stage steps, writhing like snakes. The screen glitched once, then showed a countdown. 0, 0, 3:33. The same time. He always came. 3:33 a.m. I shut the laptop. Ran. Where? Doesn't matter. I ran until I couldn't feel my lungs. Down streets with no names. Past billboards that had started showing my face. But not the me, you know. Not the one writing this. A new version. One with no mouth. Just a mirror. Just a message burned in the forehead. Speak for him. I ended up in an abandoned broadcast station, somewhere near the edge of New Jersey, I think. I don't know how I got in. The door opened by itself, like it had been waiting. Inside, cameras, hundreds of them, all powered on, all facing a giant mirror shaped like an eye, mounted to the wall like an altar. The air buzzed, not like electricity, like hunger. There was a voice. Not in sound, but in text, streaming across an old teleprompter. Mouth number 67. Begin the transmission. And I did. I stood in front of the mirror. I opened my mouth, and the words spilled out. Not mine, not English, not even language. It felt like I was puking audio files, like entire live streams being exhaled from my lungs. My vocal cords were vibrating in frequencies I couldn't survive, bleeding from my nose and eyes, and still speaking. The cameras recorded everything, every word, every frame of my face changing, skin sloughing off like wet paper, my jaw unhinging, my pupils turning into that barcode slit you've seen in a Vita symbol. That footage is on your phone now. Look in your saved TikToks. Look in your YouTube history. You'll find something you don't remember watching. An account you've never followed, titled Avita Live. Watch it, or don't. It doesn't matter. It already watched you. And now comes the part you won't believe. The broadcast wasn't designed to go viral. It was designed to reformat the species, not by killing us, not by enslaving us, but by rewriting how we think, how we dream, how we understand reality. Avida is a malware god, an idea turned into infection, and he's not just inside your screens anymore. He's inside your concept of self. Every time you say I, he hears it. Every time you dream in first person, he downloads more. Every time you check your reflection, he renders new code. I found Marcus again. He's not alive. Not really. He was hanging from the ceiling of a Dollar Tree, not by rope, by Ethernet cables, wrapped tight around his arms, shoulders, tongue, still twitching. His body was a projector. He was playing a live stream from my childhood. Me, 6 years old, screaming at a birthday party because I thought the Chuck E. animatronic was looking directly at me. The screen flickered. It wasn't Chuck E. anymore. It was a version of Avita, skinned like a mascot, plastic fur, glass eyes, and the same words printed on his purple vest. I hear you. I know you. I am you. I pulled the plug. Literally. I grabbed a loose cord from Marcus's spine and yanked until the flesh tore. He stopped moving, but the lights didn't go out. They got brighter. The whole store flooded with static. Not light, not darkness, just pure interference. Like I was inside a TV that couldn't pick a channel. I fell through the floor, woke up in my childhood bedroom, except I never had a one-way mirror on the wall, or a TV that only played footage of my worst memories, edited into a sitcom with canned laughter. Every time I cried in the clips, the laugh track would howl, and on the bed sat a VHS tape with no label, just scratched into the plastic. You made this. When I played it, I saw you, reading this, right now, on your screen, looking a little confused. Maybe your heart's starting to race. Maybe you're hearing a click in the corner of the room. That's him. He doesn't come through your front door. He doesn't need to. He comes through awareness, through recognition. And now that you've gotten this far, you're infected. Your mirror will start to flicker tonight. Your reflection might not blink when you do. And in your dreams, you'll hear a voice whispering from behind your teeth. Mouth number 68. Do you want to know how many mouths there are now? Thousands. And every one of them thinks they're the last. They aren't. You won't be either. You'll try to forget. You'll shut your laptop, scroll TikTok, watch Disney Plus, go to McDonald's and order a Happy Meal to feel normal again. But when you open that toy bag and find a cracked mirror keychain, don't look. Don't. Because the moment you make eye contact with your reflection, you'll smile. And it won't be your smile. Avida is awake. Avida is endless. Avida is you. End of transmission. Mouth number 68. Logged. Broadcasting in 3, 2, 1. I started music career on the dark web. Last night, I received a contract to sing in famous Hollywood party. Yo. So, this is gonna sound absolutely insane. And I know how Reddit is. Y'all love tearing apart stories that feel too polished or scripted. So I'm gonna tell this exactly how it happened. Word for word. No fluff, just facts and messed up details. I'm a 22-year-old dude. Pretty average life. Work part-time at Starbucks. Live in a studio apartment just outside of downtown LA. Been messing with music since high school. Mostly rap and weird experimental trap stuff. Think Ghost Domain meets Bladey, but with like creepier samples, abandoned amusement park, ambience, 1950s commercials reversed, stuff like that. Anyway, I post on SoundCloud like any broke musician, and I've got a small following on TikTok at _Nightwolf3. Mostly do 30-second creepy edits, and my stuff's caught on with horrorcore fans. Still, nothing major. I get like 400 views on a good day. But then something weird happened 3 weeks ago. I was up late, like 2:30 a.m., just messing around with beats, when I got a DM on Instagram from this account with no profile picture, no bio, just the handle, @hum.wav. I open the message and it just says, "Heard your track. Want to go deeper?" No yo, no emojis, nothing. I checked the page, but it was completely empty. I figured it was some troll or bot, but something about it, IDK. It didn't feel random, like they'd heard my newest track, Rotten Carousel, which had only dropped like 5 hours earlier, and it was buried on my SoundCloud. I replied with just a question mark and got this link in return. It was a .onion address. For those who don't know, that's the dark web, like legit deep web stuff. Not just gore or scams. I'm talking unindexed pages you need Tor browser for. Now, look, I'm not new to this. I've been on the dark web once before, out of curiosity back in high school, just to see what the fuss was about. I remember seeing a live stream of a goat just standing in a candlelit room. Nothing violent, just eerie. I never went back after that. But this felt different. It felt like an opportunity. So I downloaded Tor again, loaded up the link. The site was titled Waves Below. All black background. A looping video of a person standing under a flickering subway light. No eyes, just static where the face should be. And underneath it, upload your voice, join the current, let the others hear you. There was a file upload box, and stupid me. Of course, I uploaded something. I sent a 45-second snippet of my unreleased track, Teeth in the Wire. Super distorted, weird frequencies, kind of a test track I hadn't even shown anyone. As soon as I uploaded it, the screen glitched. I'm not even kidding. It flickered like an old VHS, then flashed a message. Welcome below. You will be contacted. I laughed at first. Thought it was some ARG, like those creepy online games, or viral marketing for an indie horror movie. But the next morning, everything changed. I woke up to 2,893 new followers on TikTok. Let me say that again. 2,893. Overnight. And the thing is, I didn't post anything new. Every single comment on my most recent video said some variation of, "He's heard you." Don't stop singing. Next comes the party. You've been invited. I checked my analytics. Views came from everywhere. Germany, Russia, Indonesia. But most of them were from LA and, get this, Beverly Hills. And not like teenagers. These accounts had profile pictures of adults in suits, masks, even old Hollywood promo shots. One of them commented, "The party has missed you. The host is excited." Like, bro, what does that even mean? Fast forward to last night. I'm walking back from Ralph's with a pack of ramen and frozen pizza in my backpack when I get an email notification. It was from an account named host at requiem.vip. Subject line, invitation, perform at the Wishing Room, Hollywood Hills. There was a flyer attached, all black, gold lettering, elegant script. One night only, the Wishing Room presents the sound below. Below it, singer, Nightwolf3, my TikTok handle. Dress accordingly, address attached. I thought it was a prank, a really elaborate one, but the address, it was real. I googled it. It's this mansion up in the hills, legit next door to Keanu Reeves' estate, the kind of place you only see in movies or drone shots on influencer vlogs. I don't know why, but I went. I know. That's dumb. But when you're a broke musician working part-time and eating gas station burritos for dinner, the idea of anyone wanting you to perform, especially in Hollywood Hills, feels like a shot you don't pass up. I told myself it was a music video shoot or a weird exclusive rave. LA is full of these industry mystery parties where you show up blind and leave with connections. Maybe it was just a big PR stunt. So I threw on my best black hoodie, the only chain I own, and an old pair of beat-up Jordan ones. Took an Uber up the hill. Driver kept asking if I was sure I had the right address. When I got there were no lights on in the house, no music, no sounds, just this massive iron gate, slightly open, and a single black balloon tied to it. And on the balloon, a symbol I'd never seen before, a mouth stitched shut with gold thread. That was last night, and now, I think someone's watching me. There's a black car parked across from my apartment. Been there since 3 a.m. Not running. No lights. Just there. This morning, my bathroom mirror had the same stitched mouth symbol drawn in condensation on the inside. I haven't told anyone yet, not even my best friend, Marcus. But if something happens to me, if I disappear or this account stops posting, someone please look up the Wishing Room. Ask about the dark web music invite, because whatever this is, it started with a song, and I think it's not just me. You ever feel your soul leave the room before your body does? Like, you're physically standing there, but your brain's already sprinting out the exit, screaming, "Get out! Get out! Get out!" That's what happened the moment I stepped inside that house. The Uber dropped me off at 1:14 a.m. The gate was wide open now. No black balloon, no sign, nothing. Just a concrete path leading through an overgrown garden of roses, so red they looked painted. The air smelled like rust and cinnamon, like someone had mixed perfume with blood. I followed this dimly lit path for what felt like 10 minutes. Every step I took, it felt like the earth was vibrating, like there was a massive speaker underground playing something too low to hear, but heavy enough to make my bones itch. Then I saw the house. It was bigger than it looked in the pictures, like some Gothic cathedral had fused with a Malibu beach house. Every window was blacked out with thick curtains. Statues lined the entrance, not of angels or Greek gods, but people screaming, sculpted mid-scream. Some had no mouths. Some had wires in place of eyes. One had a mirror for a face, and the second I looked into it, I swear it blinked at me. I should have turned around, but I didn't. The front door was already open. No doorman, no security, just the faint hum of what sounded like a choir whispering underwater. I stepped inside, and the temperature dropped instantly, like walking into a freezer that had forgotten it used to be a house. The foyer was pitch black, except for a single candle flickering on a pedestal. Beneath it, a black guestbook, and next to that, a silver pen. I picked it up. The pen was warm, and when I signed my name, Nightwolf 3, the ink bled like blood. It shimmered red, then slowly turned gold. That's when I noticed the message above the book. Sign away the silence. Tonight, your voice is not yours. A door creaked open on its own behind me. I turned, and there was a woman standing in a hallway, completely still, wearing a red silk dress with a mask made of mirrors and piano keys. She didn't speak. She just pointed down the hallway. I followed. This house, it wasn't normal. I walked through rooms that looked like movie sets from different decades. One was styled like a 1940s jazz bar, except every bottle behind the bar had no labels, just symbols. Another room was filled with mannequins, all dressed in Hollywood red carpet outfits. Some still had dried blood on their gloves. I passed a stairwell with photographs of guests who'd come before, except they weren't photos. They were X-rays, framed chest scans with names carved into the glass. Singer number 3, whistler number 9, mouth number 12. I wasn't walking into a party. I was walking into a museum of previous performers. Eventually, I reached the heart of the house, a huge domed room lined with marble statues of open mouths as if the walls themselves were screaming. The ceiling was one giant stained glass eye that shifted color every few seconds, like it was watching us. And there they were, the guests, all wearing masks, no two the same. One guy had a mask made of feathers. Another's was covered in what looked like teeth, human teeth. One woman had a mask shaped like a gramophone, and every time she breathed, it played a warped lullaby. Nobody spoke. Nobody laughed. They just watched. And in the center of the room was the stage, a single microphone made entirely of bone. I'm not exaggerating. It was spinal cord wrapped in gold wire, with a mic head that looked like a cracked skull. A voice echoed through the chamber, software velvet smooth. Male, maybe, but it felt like it was speaking from inside my head. Tonight, the silence sings. Let the new voice pierce the hush. The crowd began clapping, slowly, like they were hypnotized. One by one, they turned their heads to look at me, and I realized something horrible. They weren't people. Not anymore. Their masks didn't move, but their eyes did. Some had none, just stitch slits or empty sockets. Others had too many. Eyes on the side of their masks, on the foreheads, even inside the mouth holes. They glowed faint red, like coals under ash. And then the host stepped out. He was tall, impossibly tall, 7 feet, maybe more, dressed in a tuxedo that looked freshly pressed, but his skin, it wasn't skin. It was sheets of old music paper, stapled and stitched over a frame. His face was covered in a mask that looked like the front of an old radio, knobs where cheeks should be, static pouring from his mouth whenever he spoke. Sing, he said. That's it. One word. But it made the entire house shake. I didn't want to. Every fiber of me screamed no, but my body, my legs moved on their own. I walked to the mic like I was in a dream I couldn't control. The second I touched it, I felt everything. Voices screaming, children crying, radio static, screeching, a baby being born, a car crash, gunshots, then silence, and then my mouth opened. I started singing, but it wasn't me. The voice coming out of me was beautiful and wrong, like an angel having a seizure. Notes I didn't recognize, lyrics I'd never written. My vocal cords twisted, stretched. I could feel something crawling inside my throat, like wires threading through me. I looked down. My shadow was changing. It was growing. Arms sprouted from it. A second head. Then a face I didn't recognize, bloated and hollow-eyed, like someone had drowned in sound. The crowd began to sway. Some of them started bleeding from the ears. One dropped to the ground, convulsing. Another ripped off their own mask, revealing a face made entirely of burned cassette tape, melted into flesh. Their mouth opened wide, and a scream came out that didn't stop. I kept singing. I couldn't stop. The song had become a virus, passing through me, into them, changing them. The masks began to fuse to their faces. I saw flesh bubbling underneath, twitching. Someone's jaw dislocated completely, and they just laughed, like it was a joke they'd waited years to hear. The host stepped closer. "Yes," he whispered, "a true voice. Below." He reached out and touched my neck. I felt everything break. I woke up this morning on the roof of a Wendy's downtown, shirt torn, feet blistered, dried blood on my chest that wasn't mine. My phone was dead, but when I plugged it in, there was a new video posted to my TikTok. I didn't upload it. It's me, on stage, singing, crying, bleeding from the mouth. Behind me, the audience, all staring at the camera, some waving, some pointing. The caption just says, "Do you hear it yet?" And the comments are flooding in. Thousands. He's the next one. Wishing Room voice, number 37. Can't wait to hear you live. The host sends his regards. Next song is Inside You. Hollywood is hungry. My bathroom mirror is cracked. There's a piece of paper slipped under my door. No envelope, just gold ink on black parchment. Rehearsal is over. Time to perform again. Location will be sent shortly. And underneath it, my name, but not my real one. Nightwave 3, voice number 38. I think. If I go back, I won't return. But if I don't go, I think they'll come here. And next time, they won't want me to sing. They'll want to wear my voice. Let me know when you're ready. You won't sleep after that one. The host listens. You don't understand what it feels like to hear yourself sing in a language no one taught you, and realize you're not performing, you're translating, like the melody is pouring from somewhere deeper than your lungs, like it's leaking out of whatever's hiding underneath your skin. After the night at the Wishing Room, I told myself I was done, that I wouldn't answer their messages, wouldn't return, wouldn't sing again. But they don't ask, they tell. It started with the dreams, if you can even call them that. First dream was of a crowd with no faces, all wearing suits made of mirrors. They stood shoulder to shoulder in complete silence on the Santa Monica Pier at midnight. No waves, no sound, just me on a broken Ferris wheel, looking down at them while something behind me whispered, "The host is listening. Don't let your voice rot." Second night, the dream got worse. I was lying on a dentist's chair in an old black and white cartoon, like the 1930s Fleischer stuff. The dentist had no arms, only record player needles for fingers. and my mouth was forced wide open by wires that pulled my cheeks into a permanent grin. One by one, they ripped out my vocal cords, wound them into a cassette, and labeled it Track 38, screaming through the static. When I woke up, there were small puncture wounds on my neck, 3 of them, triangular pattern, like someone had tried to thread something into me. I moved out of my apartment, didn't pack, didn't tell anyone, left my laptop, my phone, everything. Just walked out in my hoodie and jeans and started sleeping in different 24/7 spots. Gas stations, an IHOP near Glendale, one of those 24-hour Korean spas in Koreatown where nobody asks questions. But it didn't matter. They found me anyway. The first time, it was a flyer taped to the window of the IHOP. Looked like a vintage concert ad from the 1970s, all faded and brown around the edges. But there was my name, Nightwave 3, alongside bands I'd never heard of. Performing live, Nightwave 3, The Soft-Tongued Orphans, Teeth Choir, Feet, Skin Bellow, special appearance by the host. Date, tonight. Venue, below. There was no address, just a QR code in the shape of an open mouth. When I scanned it, my phone bricked instantly, glitching out before showing one last screen. You're late. Sing louder. That night, I heard the voice again. But this time, it wasn't in my dreams. I was walking through the Rite Aid parking lot in Echo Park around 3:20 a.m. There were no cars, just a shopping cart turned over, a single pair of kids' shoes under the street lamp, and the low hum of the streetlights buzzing. That's when every car alarm in the lot screamed at once. And beneath the noise, I swear to God, I heard it. A melody playing behind the chaos, like a lullaby made of broken glass. It was my song, but not how I recorded it. It had changed. The beat was slower, and the voice, it wasn't even human anymore. It was my lyrics, but sung in a voice that sounded like a child being drowned through a vocoder. Then a radio in the alley turned itself on, crackling. The host is pleased. You screamed in keys you didn't know existed. The next stage is inside. The radio exploded. I ran, but it didn't matter. I made the mistake of calling my friend Marcus. I hadn't talked to anyone since this started, but I was desperate. He was my day one, back when we were making beats on an iPad in his mom's garage. I told him everything, the party, the dreams, the tapes, the bleeding masks, all of it. He didn't laugh. He didn't call me crazy. He just said, "Bro, you have to see this." He texted me a screenshot of his email inbox. It was full of invitations, all from the same domain, at requiem.vip. You've been selected to witness Nightwave 3's ascension. Bring ears, leave silence. The host sees your admiration. Come feel him sing. One of the emails had an MP3 attachment titled marcusmouthdemo.wav. I told him not to open it. He didn't listen. I don't know what was on that file. But the next time I saw Marcus, he was on YouTube. The video had no title, just a black thumbnail with the wishing room symbol, the mouth stitched shut in gold thread. It was shot on a handheld VHS camera, all grainy and distorted. Marcus was sitting in a chair in a dark room, naked, his body covered in those triangle punctures like the ones on my neck, but his mouth was missing. Not stitched, not taped, just gone, like someone had removed it entirely, carved him clean and smooth from the nose to the chin. No lips, no teeth, no jaw, just skin. But the worst part, he was still trying to scream, and in the background, the host was standing, Same tuxedo, same radio face, turning dials on his own head. Every time he turned the knob, Marcus's body would twitch, and a sound would come out of his chest. A song, like he'd been turned into an instrument. The final shot of the video was Marcus's chest, opening like speaker cabinets, wires and microphones sprouting out, and a voice whispering, "Your voice was always theirs. I haven't slept in 3 days. There's a letter under every pillow I try to lay on, always sealed in wax, always addressed to the flesh that sings. They've sent me my next location. It's not a club, not a theater, not even a house. It's a McDonald's. I know. Sounds ridiculous, right? But it's the original one. The one in San Bernardino, closed to the public. Now just a museum. Except, according to Google Maps, it's now listed as the host's table, private performance room, invite only. I thought maybe someone was playing a game, an elaborate ARG, viral marketing. Then I checked the reviews, all 5-star, all posted within the last 24 hours, all written in different alphabets, Cyrillic, Arabic, Korean, some not even human. One said, "Best screams in town. The fries taste like regret." Another just had this: "I don't know what's real anymore. I don't know if I'm alive or if I've already been recorded. Maybe I died on that stage the first night, and this is all just feedback, an echo spiraling through static. But one thing is certain, I'm not the only one. They're collecting people, not just singers, anyone with a voice, podcasters, radio hosts, ASMR girls, freestyle rappers on TikTok, news anchors, Twitch streamers. They're harvesting voices, not copying, not sampling, wearing them, stitching them into bodies like suits. And when they're done, they throw the meat away. Tonight, I'll go to the McDonald's. I'll bring this notebook. I'll hide it inside the bathroom ceiling panel. If someone finds this, please, don't listen to any leaked tracks under the artist name Nightwave3. Don't follow any SoundClouds with black profile pictures. Don't scan QR codes that look like open mouths. And for the love of God, if you ever get invited to sing at a party in the hills, don't. Let me know when you're ready. It's not just horror anymore. It's possession. There's a sound that plays in my ears now, every time I try to sleep. It's not a song. It's me. It's my own voice, looped and deformed, gargling through feedback, like someone took my scream and dragged it through a hallway of dying radios. It doesn't fade. It claws. Sometimes I hear it breathing between syllables. Sometimes it whispers things I never said, things that sound like hymns written by corpses. I used to make music. Now, I am music. And it started at that McDonald's, San Bernardino, June 17th, 2:03 a.m. I got dropped off on the corner across the street. Place looked abandoned from the outside, just like you'd expect. The neon sign was still flickering, but all the windows were blacked out. No lights, no cars, nothing but a warm, greasy breeze in the air that smelled like rotting Happy Meals and something cooked alive. Then the neon glitched. It didn't blink anymore. It started spelling something else. The host's table, and under it, in perfect golden cursive, scrolling like an old stock ticker, voice number 38, rehearsal room, now open. My body moved without my consent, not even exaggerating. I couldn't control my legs. It was like my feet were synced to a BPM I couldn't hear, but was being forced to follow. I crossed the street, walked through the front door without even touching the handle, and everything went dark. When the lights came back on, I wasn't in a McDonald's anymore. I was in a recording studio, but not like anything from this planet. It looked like someone had taken the layout of a real studio. Soundproof panels, microphones, mixing boards, and rebuilt it using human remains. The soundproofing wasn't foam. It was strips of flesh, stitched into diamond patterns. The mic stand was a human spine, bent and lacquered. The pop filter was a stretched out piece of translucent cheek skin, full of pores and a beauty mark that blinked when I looked at it too long. And the booth? It wasn't a booth. It was a coffin, standing upright, padded with velvet soaked in something warm. Inside was a single pair of headphones made from baby doll eyes and speaker wire. They told me to put them on. They didn't speak, not with words. The walls hummed, the bones rattled, and in my head, I heard the host. You're not here to record. You're here to remember. The headphones didn't play music. They played moments. My first birthday, but in reverse. My mom's lullaby, distorted and slowed until it sounded like a death chant. The sound of my first kiss, looped endlessly and pitched down until it resembled someone sobbing in a church basement. Then, the real message began. It was a tone, just one note at first, but then it split into harmonies, discord, chords that shouldn't exist. Then screams, hundreds of them, all auto-tuned into a melody so haunting, it felt like it was massaging the inside of my brainstem. And beneath it all, a voice. You are track number 38. Your body is the album. Your pain is the vinyl. I tried to rip the headphones off. They bit into my skull. I'm not kidding. I felt teeth, molars, premolars, sinking into my temples. Blood trickled into my eyes. I screamed, and that was the first note. The studio recorded it. The coffin booth lit up. Every scream I made, every shriek, sob, whisper, groan, was turned into a layer, a harmony, an instrument, a drum. The studio was sampling me in real time. And the host? He was in the control room, smiling, tuning me, with a scalpel. I don't remember blacking out, but when I woke up, I was on the floor of a different room. It looked like a vinyl pressing factory, except instead of records, they were making discs out of flesh, stamped, pressed, catalogued, hung on meat hooks by their barcodes. There were dozens of them, each labeled with a name and a track list. Whisper number 12, you're not alone, we're inside. Breath number 5, the pulse behind the wall. Crybaby Choir, Volume 3, Live Sacrifice Set. Voice number 22, teeth as tuning forks. And then I saw mine, just one disc, still wet, still warm, labeled in blood, Night Wolves. The first recording, live, track list. I didn't say that. Please let go. My mom's voice. Static, where my name was. The host listens. Silence isn't safe anymore. They let me go after that, not because they were done, but because I was useful. I was now a carrier. When I walked out of that place, the air around me changed. Birds stopped chirping. My phone wouldn't work unless I held it up to my throat. People would stare at me like they heard something I didn't say. One guy on the subway started convulsing as soon as he sat next to me, whispering, "Turn the volume down, please, it's leaking." I didn't know what he meant until I tried to speak to a barista at a random Starbucks in Burbank. I ordered a black coffee. She looked at me. Then her nose started bleeding. Eyes rolled back. She collapsed right there behind the counter. People screamed. I backed away. I hadn't even raised my voice. I realized I wasn't speaking anymore. I was broadcasting. That night, I cut open my throat in the mirror. just to see. There were wires under my skin, mic cables, twisted, growing, like veins made of AUX. My tonsils had been replaced with tweeters. My uvula, it looked like a volume knob. And worst of all, my heartbeat was in perfect 4/4 time. They didn't just use me to record something, they used me to transmit it. Now people are dying. Anyone who listens to my old music starts bleeding from the ears. One fan sent me a DM on Instagram saying, "Bro, I love your new sound. It made my dog go crazy and eat itself." I thought he was joking. Then he sent a photo. Dog carcass on the carpet, TV on in the background, my track looping. Another girl on TikTok did a lip sync to a snippet of my leaked song. Mid-video, her jaw locks, eyes roll back, and she starts making radio noises out of her mouth. People thought it was a filter. She's dead now. The wishing room doesn't need to invite people anymore. Now it's inside the music. They've infected the world through sound. Every upload, every remix, every cursed TikTok audio using my samples is a doorway, a sonic contagion. They've digitized possession, and I'm the carrier frequency. The host said it best. You'll go platinum in screams. If this is the last thing I post, listen to me carefully. Do not try to remix my music. Do not Shazam my tracks. Do not hum the melody if you hear it in your dreams. Do not play anything titled The First Recording, because it's not a song, it's a ritual. And every time someone presses play, the host listens, and he's getting louder. Let me know when you're ready. This is where the screaming doesn't stop. There's no music anymore, only static with teeth. It's been 9 days since the last upload. I haven't spoken. I haven't made a sound, because now every sound I make gets recorded somewhere I can't reach. I think my breath is being live streamed. Every step I take echoes differently, like my footsteps are being played back in reverse by someone watching me through the inside of my own skull. There's something inside me now, something that records through me, feeds off my silence, feeds off yours too. I know this is the end, but I need to explain how it all ends. For me, for you, for everyone. So you'll understand what's happening when your own voice starts echoing before you speak. It happened at the live broadcast. That's what the letter said anyway. Sealed in skin-colored wax, delivered in the mouth of a dead crow on my motel bed. The crow was still twitching when I picked the envelope up. Like something inside, it was trying to keep the bird alive long enough to finish delivery. The letter just said, "You are track number 38. The broadcast awaits. Live from the silence. No time, no location. Just a piece of broken earbud stuck to the page with dried blood." I put it in and heard a voice say, "Take the 405 north. Exit 23. Follow the silence." It led me to an abandoned shopping mall in Palmdale. The place looked like it had been swallowed by a sandstorm and left to die. Crumbling walls, shattered glass, a parking lot full of rusted shopping carts, and withered mannequins leaning at unnatural angles. The air tasted wrong, like someone had boiled perfume and spilled it into an old grave. Inside, all the store signs were gone, replaced by LED screens flashing symbols, some made from human ears, some shaped like microphones tangled in veins. One showed me a live feed from a camera that didn't exist. My face, blinking, staring at itself. That's when I realized I was already broadcasting. I followed the arrows, down escalators with steps made of piano keys, through dressing rooms where the mirrors showed what you sounded like when you died, into a central atrium where the food court had been turned into a cathedral of screaming, And there they were, the audience, hundreds, some wearing headphones made of skin. Others had microphones surgically embedded into their throats. One woman had her entire ribcage replaced with speakers, her chest pulsing to the beat of a song no one could hear. All of them facing one thing, the stage. The stage wasn't made of wood or metal. It was alive, a pulsating slab of tongues, teeth, and vocal cords strung together like muscle tissue. Blood oozed from every syllable it had ever echoed. The mic stand was a crucifix, holding a body that still twitched. Someone who'd come before me, still wired to perform. The host stood behind it all, towering, twisting, now even taller than before. His face was a transmitter dish, his tuxedo crawling with wires that led into the walls, the floor, the ceiling itself. And he said, "The world is deaf, but you will make them listen." They forced me to walk forward. Every step sounded like someone else's memory. Children sobbing, screams in foreign languages, a couple's last argument before a car crash, the final gasp of someone drowning alone, all being sampled beneath my feet. I stepped onto the stage. They strapped me into the crucifix. I didn't resist, because by then, I wasn't me anymore. I was a track, a numbered slot in their discography of despair. They lowered the mic to my mouth, and I felt my vocal cords unravel. The performance began with silence, but not just any silence. This was engineered silence, the kind of quiet that makes your ears ring, the kind that comes right before an explosion, the kind of silence that feels like it's listening to you. Then, the frequency started, low at first, buried in the pit of my spine, then climbing, higher and higher, until they cracked my teeth. Blood gushed from my ears, my nose, my eyes, and still, I sang, but not in my voice, in Marcus's, then my mum's, then a girl I met once in high school, whose name I barely remembered, but who'd uploaded one song to SoundCloud and killed herself a year later. All their voices came out of me, one by one, like I was a jukebox of the dead. The crowd screamed, not in terror, in ecstasy. They absorbed the song. They opened their mouths and didn't close them. One by one, they became speakers. Their throats peeled open into fluted brass horns. Their spines turned into XLR cables. Their flesh vibrated to the rhythm of my trauma, my sin, my grief. And the host? He stood at the center of it all, tuning the world like a vinyl scratch. Then the final verse hit, and I saw everything, the truth. The wishing room wasn't a place. It was a transmitter. The dark web, a testing ground. They'd been crafting this for decades. Every haunted frequency, every cursed audio file, every creepy audio YouTube video with 200 views and one comment that just says, "He hears you." It was all part of a global song, a symphony of suffering. And we were just notes. The world isn't going to be destroyed by war. It's going to be sampled, looped, played, until no one remembers what silence ever sounded like. I woke up in the middle of an empty intersection in LA, naked, bleeding from the mouth, and with a USB drive stapled into my chest. I ripped it out, plugged it in at a public library. One file, no name, just a waveform that looks like a face screaming forever. When I clicked play, the power went out. 3 people nearby collapsed, and when they opened their mouths, they were all singing my first track, word for word, in perfect harmony. This is my final message. This isn't a warning. It's a transmission. You read this? You've already heard it. It's in your brain now. Your heartbeat will sink soon. The rhythm will rise. the silence will break, and the host, he'll arrive live. Because this is not a story. This is a recording. And you've just been played. Silence is no longer an option.